but I'm wondering about the rosters. They're so fluid these days, and you've had a history with transfers, as I understand it. I'm wondering what is emphasized in terms of having a lot of new players, meshing them into a unit.
Yeah, Jerry. You know, I guess from a personal standpoint, with me coming from the minor leagues, you know, it has not been much of a transition at all to try to get new players implemented really quickly. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, you know, communication, you know, trying to, you know, I guess from a coaching perspective, trying to, you know, make your terminology as easy as possible. I don't know if I'm off topic or what you're looking for or not, but
I just wondered if there was something maybe unique or different in terms of having a lot of new pieces to put together rather than having 2 or 3 year guys that, you know.
yeah, I mean, I haven't had to, you know, I mean, a lot of our guys have been transfers, and you know, I do think when they're transfers, and obviously this is going to go by, you know, it's not going to be really the way it is moving forward, but when you have a guy sitting out, like we had Connor Vanover, like we had JD Note at Nevada, Cody and Caleb Martin, when you have those guys sitting out for a year to learn your terminology, for them to get stronger in the weight room, I think it's a huge advantage. Again, you know, whatever happens with the, you know, with the rules, and obviously even this year, very few players it looks like are going to have to sit out at all, because everybody's getting a waiver. You know, I think it's, you know, those players are a little bit more mature. They played at the college level. They pick things up quicker. So to me, I think from a patient standpoint, slowing down, adding sets and schemes, you actually have to, you know, probably slow down a lot more with freshmen. So I think that, you know, the transfers are no different than in the NBA when a player, you know, joins your team through free agency or trades, as opposed to an incoming rookie. I think the guys that have, you know, that have experience pick up schemes and stuff a little bit faster maybe than an incoming freshman.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jarrett.
Bob?
Hey, Eric, how you doing?
What's up, Bob?
Hey, I wanted to ask you about the Red White game, but first I wanted to ask you about JD. How's he looking in practice? What are you seeing from him? What do you like that he's doing?
Yeah, you know, the one thing with JD is he can get his own shot by himself. In other words, he doesn't need a play to manufacture, you know, a shot attempt. And that sounds easy, that a player, you know, can go get his own shot, but very few players can get a good, clean look at the basket, regardless of what type of defense they're playing against. He does have that innate ability. We want him to shoot the three like he did as a freshman with consistency. As a sophomore, his three ball was up and down, but he has great one-on-one skills. He can play two different positions, the point guard or the off guard. He's a true combo. You know, I think he's a guy that's streaky. He's going to have some stretches this year where he, you know, is going to be able to put points on the board fairly quickly.
And as far as the Red White game, is this going to be the second in the COVID Cup? How did the COVID Cup opener go, and just what are you looking for out of the guys on Thursday night?
Yeah, I thought that, you know, the first segment that you know, that we had last week when we had SEC refs, there was, you know, defensively we got to get a lot better. We've got to get a lot better defending the three, based on, you know, round one of that segment of live play. Moses Moody shot really well. He went 5 of 6 from three on that particular, you know, first segment of what we would call, you know, exhibition game or whatever you want to call it, COVID Cup. JD Note led us in scoring. He had, I think, 20. Moses had 18. But on the flip side, both those guys got to defend better than they did that day. They also gave up the most points. So defensively, we've got to get better. Vance did a good job scoring the ball. And, that's just one segment of play. But those three guys were the three guys that scored the ball at a pretty good clip.
Do you know how many of these COVID Cup matchups you're going to have?
I think it'll, really, Bob, once we get past tomorrow night, we'll, kind of regroup, and then we'll, my plan was to always try to get like 3 of them or 4 of them in. So probably 1 more, maybe 2 more, based on the evaluation of what happens, Thursday.
Okay, I got some more, but I'll turn it back to Mike.
Nate. You're muted,
You're
Nate.
on mute.
Decided the squads yet for tomorrow's game?
Yeah, I just was finishing them. I think Riley's getting them to Mike and the social media team, and that'll be out, momentarily, Nate. But we'll have 5 scholarship guys on the red team, 5 on the white. We'll put another guy on the, with that starting unit for at least one night. That does not mean that player's the 6th man at all. Actually, the 5 and 5 is a 10-man rotation, and Connor's missed a lot of time, so he'll probably be a sub on one of the 2 teams just based on lack of being on the practice floor of late.
Also,
Can you comment on your signee today?
Yeah, I mean, both AK and Chance, I mean, both those guys, Chance being able to play, the 2 or the 3 with great athleticism, really good length. He's really played well of late. The thing is that the entire family, Julie and John and then Eddie, his stepfather, all of the family was so excited to be a part of Arkansas, and they jumped all in, and they asked a lot of really, really good questions. They got a chance to come and visit on their own, but the excitement that they have given us to be a part of this thing is really cool. And then AK, obviously, his relationship with Coach Patrick. Talk about a 6'10", 240-pound player who's got really, really good versatility, playing inside and out. I think he's ranked as a number 1 power forward by a couple different outlets as far as junior college goes, and he's got the local ties as well, having played here. In the past. And so we're excited about both those guys.
Thanks.
Nikki.
Coach, how would you evaluate how you and the staff did for this early signing day? And then looking at the roster, I know that seniors will be able to come back. So how do you evaluate what you need next to finish out the class, maybe later in the spring or with a transfer?
Yeah, I think, Nikki, with the guys coming back, I mean, we haven't even talked to any of the guys about that. And I think what you'll see across the board is very few men's basketball players coming back, especially guys at a high level. I know, because we've talked about it as a staff. I mean, our guys at Nevada, I mean, those guys were all looking forward to going and starting a pro career, whether it be in the NBA, G League, or overseas. We certainly feel like our, 3 guys that we have now are guys that are going to have opportunity to play for money, beyond college. So that's really not a factor in how we're building out our roster, Nikki. But yeah, I mean, I think from a high school standpoint, That's our class. It's going to be chance. And then from a junior college perspective, I'm pretty sure it's just going to be AK. And then I think the way that we'll build out our roster moving forward will be with transfers. And, there's not going to be any surprises over the next 3 or 4 weeks. This is kind of where we are, and we'll have patience moving forward with how we build the roster out, from this moment on. But really excited about both guys because, Chance fits what we want on the wing, so to speak, and obviously AK with his versatility up front. And both guys can make threes and also beat people off the dribble. So I think from a scheme standpoint that they fit into what we're trying to do.
Curtis?
Hey, Coach, with this red-white game tomorrow night, obviously it's going to be fun with music and the dunk contest and things like that. But with the way things work out this year, it's kind of your only chance to get your team out on the floor in front of a crowd before it counts. So does that make you, put a little bit more pressure? Well, not pressure, but just make it a little bit more important in terms of preparing for the season?
Yeah, I obviously, we want to do it to try to promote the program. We want to do it for the student body. But, it's a part or a tool of the, evaluation process. I'm sure that the players probably have a much different angst towards this than I do. To me, it's just another practice, that I'll be more of a spectator probably than even a normal practice, and then go back and be able to evaluate it on film. But I don't think you can put too much emphasis on it either. When you talk about practicing, 4 or 5 times a week, and you talk about all the practices that have led up to this, and then the post practices after this, I don't think you can just take this thing and run with whatever happens tomorrow. And we all know that in the sport of basketball, somebody can get hot, and that doesn't mean that, that's the same guy that's going to get hot for us opening night. So I don't feel any pressure at all tomorrow. I don't think any of the assistant coaches do, but certainly there might be some internal angst with some of the players. But I think it's really good for our guys to be able to play in Bud Walton, for us to play under the lights, for us to be able to play in front of however many people come, just to be able to have somewhat of a game atmosphere, because it's going to start when we have shoot around. It's going to be the first time for a lot of guys to see what our shoot arounds are like. On game day, we actually call them game day practices. We don't call them shoot arounds. So they'll be able to go through our game day practice. We'll have a team meal as if we, would do during the regular season. And then that'll flow into their couple hours before they have to report back. And some guys might go home. Some guys might take a nap in the locker room. So it's kind of the first time that everybody's going to be able to partake in a game day type atmosphere.
Ty?
Yeah, kind of to bridge off Curtis's question, Coach, speaking of atmospheres, I know you partake in the atmosphere in Donald W. on Saturday. And with so few fans across the country with COVID and everything, what adjustments, if any, have to make now playing in just 4,000 in Bud Walton Arena and other college basketball venues across the country?
Yeah, I mentioned it, Ty, that, last time, we had one of these media gatherings that, having coached in the minor leagues where you play, quite frankly, I've coached in front of a lot of arenas or gyms or whatever you want to call them that have a couple hundred people, because that's what happens sometimes in the G League. It has no effect on true competitors. If you really love to compete, I don't think it really matters. I think Coach Pittman's team's a great example of that. To me, they look like a team that's playing in front of a sold out stadium every night because of their intensity, because of their will to win. They have blinders on to what's going on outside of the football field. And certainly we have to have the same mentality, both home and road. we know right now, we know for a fact, we're not playing this year in front of an atmosphere like we had when Kentucky came in here last year. So you've got to generate your own interest, your own enthusiasm, your own energy on a nightly basis.
Tyler?
Yeah, hey, Coach. Just wondering how that kind of search for Mason Jones replacement, just in the sense of the guy who can be the go-to guy if a play breaks down and he needs some sort of instant offense there, just how that's kind of going, if anyone's stepped up.
Yeah, no, I have nightmares about it. Because quite frankly, guys that have that special it factor, it's hard to find, but I do think we'll eventually identify who that guy is. For instance, last year when we lost at Western Kentucky, we didn't know who the player was at that point of the season. It was after that game where we made a decision that we were going to try Mason as that guy because other guys hadn't worked out in that role. And so it might be the same thing this year. Like we might try one or two guys. Somebody might not deliver. Last year we had a play called Boston Keep that Mason Jones, nobody could stop him. It was either a basket or a free throw. We didn't know when we put that play in that it would be so effective for Mason. We ran it to him dribble driving off a handoff to his left hand. We've changed that play. We're now it's on the other side of the floor because we have more predominantly right-hand dribble drivers. We had no idea that Mason was going to be so lethal driving to his left. It kind of evolved into that. And that's probably what's going to happen this year is somebody will emerge throughout, after our fourth or fifth game.
Hutch?
Yeah, Eric, y'all have done some creative stuff in the past, like last year playing the red-white game in Barnhill, and this year it's going to be students only. How did that kind of idea evolve, and what do you think about playing in front of a crowd full of just students?
Yeah, when we first talked about it, we just kind of felt like obviously everybody's been affected by COVID, but I have a son that's a sophomore in college at the University of San Diego. His life is, it's so different. And, I felt like it was a good way, or we as a program felt like it was a good way to at least do something for the students. Because, look, regular adults, sure, life has completely changed and everything, but for me, I feel like the students, whether they're in 5th grade, 6th grade, college, high school, those are the people whose life, that's the best time of your life, and so we just kind of felt like, hey, let's open the doors up to any, basketball fans that are part of our student body and let them get a glimpse of the team. And we obviously we're sensitive to season ticket holders who want to get in. And, but again, I think that, with this crazy time that we're in, if we're only going to have 1,000 people in for a red and white game, let's let the students in, because those are our players, who they're going to school with and everything else.
Dudley?
Hey, Coach, you get a sense of having the basketball taken away from them in March and not knowing whether you're going to have a season for the longest. You get a sense from the players that they take it even more important and even with more passion now.
Yeah, I think all of us, every day. I'm, lifting weights this morning, and I'm watching the TV, and another football game gets canceled, and I'm just happy I get to go down there when I'm done with you guys and coach today's practice. Probably a 55-year-old man probably has a little bit different than a 19 or 20-year-old as far as perspective, but I think they're excited to get started. It's hard to practice this long without a game in sight, and the way the season ended last year. So I think everybody in college basketball is really excited right now, but also, understanding that, whatever happens today, things can change tomorrow really rapidly, quickly. And let's just have a great practice today and worry about tomorrow.
Randy?
I got good ears, Randy, but not that good. You're on mute.
There you go. All right, Coach Musselman, I'm kind of dovetailing off of a question earlier about the closer. Tomorrow night, will there be situational basketball to kind of help position that player you're trying to find as the closer? And maybe you said the other day also that many players don't know the plays. If they don't know the plays, they're not going to play. So is this a way, again, identifying through situations tomorrow night to kind of get closer to some of those solutions? And by the way, I called you Coach Musselman today.
Thanks, Randy. You could have called me Muss. I was just saying I hadn't been called Eric because too many other nicknames. I mean, we're not going to change the format. I mean, we've kind of said how many minutes each, quarter was going to be. We're not going to change and manipulate the game but I think just through the course of having a exhibition game or an inter-squad scrimmage, that there's going to be situations where the shot clock's winding down and who makes a play, and there's going to be an end of half situation, and there's going to be an end of quarter situation. There's going to be an end of game situation if in fact the game's close. I'll probably mix some guys up at the half to try to see different combinations. So when we put out, a red team and a white team, that's going to change in the second half. So everyone knows that now, and they're not trying to read into why changes are made at halftime because I already have a format on how I want to do that to look at different combinations. But we like today, we're doing a segment of 77-77, 7 seconds left, side out of bounds, run 5 or 6 plays, baseline out of bounds, 78, 76, down 2, we're on the road. We want to go for a 3. What's the play we're running? Let's try these 4 or 5 different guys out in this particular play. So we do have a whole end of game situation segment today. Almost every day we have a game that we start the scoreboard at 77-77. As soon as we get to 80, first team to 80, we then put 2 minutes on the clock. So it's 77-77. Soon as we get to 80, 2 minutes go on the clock. And so you're getting a feel for the last 2 minutes of the game.
Bob, you said you had a follow-up?
Yeah, Eric, I know you said you don't want to put too much pressure, too much emphasis on these inter-squad things, but you mentioned the other day, there's no exhibition game. So this is basically, the only competition you get before real games. So does that add a little bit extra emphasis?
Yeah. I mean, because we're charting everything every day, Bob. I had mentioned that last week that we have more charting, and because we knew that we weren't going to have, 2 exhibition games. And so I think, is there importance in tomorrow's scrimmage? Yes. But I think the practices have way more importance maybe this year than in the past, because we're not going to have 2 exhibition games. And no matter what we say about tomorrow, it's still just a glorified practice because we're going against ourselves. So, KK is going against Jalen Tate every day in practice and then today. And JD Note is going against Desi today and then tomorrow in the red-white scrimmage. And Justin Smith's going against Vance Jet. It's going to be that same matchup tomorrow. I mean, I won't predict right now, but I can pretty much tell you how those matchups are going to look, because we've got a body of work over an extended period of time. And that's where you do miss the exhibition game. Because if we were going and playing Coach Walker and Little Rock, those matchups we've never seen, which makes it way more game-like than again, a glorified practice.
And I just wanted to ask about Chance Moore. You talked about him a little bit, but what do you like about his game? What's he going to bring to you guys?
Well, I love the fact number one, he's a great athlete. I think he's going to continue to get better as a 3-point shooter. He's got length and athleticism to play the way that we want on the defensive end, meaning he can switch. He's got enough strength to battle people down low. He's got quickness on the perimeter to be able to defend someone. I think he fits in really well with a transition offensive team that likes to get out and try to score baskets in the flow of the game. So I think all those reasons, Bob, have us really excited.
Thanks.
Ty?
Hey, Coach, we've had a lot of questions on this season and on the red-white game tomorrow night, but the NBA draft is now, I think, a week away. Just seeing and what you're hearing from Isaiah and Mason, just kind of on what they've been hearing as far as their potential NBA draft destinations.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, where they were, where they're going to go, I mean, nobody knows. I mean, the one thing that I can tell you for sure, I've been in draft rooms where a GM's promised 13 different players that they're going to draft them prior to the draft, and we only had one draft pick. Well, I mean, that means 12 guys were told something that never happened. So mock drafts are really good in the lottery. Mock drafts are pretty good in the first round. Mock drafts in the second round are meaningless. And so I think both Isaiah and Mason will get drafted. Where that is, I don't know. Both those guys, I think, for Isaiah, teams are really intrigued by his perimeter shooting and the depth with his range. And then with Mason, I think his ability to draw free throws attempted and create off the bounce. And I think both guys have helped themselves because people have gone back and watched a lot of video. And I think that's helped both guys to see how they played in game situations. So some guys have moved down in the draft when teams have started focusing on game film, and some players across the country have moved up. And I think both guys have moved up in some of the NBA eyes based on of those guys, the scouts meaning, and the general managers really diving into more video.
How did you say you had another?
I'm good.
Anybody else have any before we leave?
I got one more.
Last question, Bob.
Okay. Yeah, that was you followed up on Ty about the draft. Eric, you're obviously have a ton of NBA experience and pro experience in general. Just what kind of pros do you think Isaiah and Mason will make?
I think, Bob, really, it really depends on the roster that not just Isaiah and Mason. With any NBA non-lottery pick, it really, really depends on the roster you go to. It depends on the makeup of the team. It depends on opportunity. It depends on where that NBA organization is. Are they into a youth movement where they're playing their younger guys? Is it a organization that values the G League and sends draft picks to the G League? So I think every team is different. I mean, some teams have great patience with young guys and they want to get them out there and they have an expanded rotation. And then there's other teams that have a really tight rotation. And then again, if it's a team that's a non-playoff team, those teams tend to play young guys much more so than teams that are contending teams. So, I can't foresee. I mean, I can tell you after the draft, when I know what the roster looks like that those guys are with. But it's really hard. I mean, some guys that don't get drafted end up in a better position than guys that do get drafted. So I just think it depends on where and who a player gets to play for.
It looked like Mason. I think it might have been your tweet. Mason had some insane amount of shots at the combine. I guess they do a drill where you hit like 150, 175 or something nuts like that. What kind of combine do you think those guys had, and how much that could have helped them?
Yeah, I mean, I've had, because Mason's been coming to practice and been around a lot. I've gotten, a little bit more feedback from Mason on his, and Mason actually sat in my office and went through all the numbers. And I tweeted him out because I think he kind of wanted me to when he was telling me what his numbers were. But he had great, his free throws, the guy missed, hardly missed a free throw out of his 100 attempts. He really shot the ball well from three. I'm not so sure how many NBA teams are watching all those combines because they're done, on video. It's a lot different than, the normal combine where, everybody's like at Chicago and you're seeing the guys live and then you're seeing them in game atmosphere. It's the individual. I'll tell you, Chuck Daly didn't even want to go down and watch when there was 4 to 6 people trying out for the draft. When we would have small numbers come in, one of my jobs was to go upstairs and get Coach Daly to come down and tell him that, hey, Coach, like the stretching's done. They're now going to start the pre-draft workouts. And he would, it was like he wanted no part of it because he thought there was no value in trying to evaluate 4 to 6 players when we play a team sport 5-on-5.
Okay, Coach. Appreciate it. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Eric.
Hey,